The golden age of professional bands might evoke for some the small town bandstand with the Sunday concerts and picnics on the lawn. The closest that many may come to this today are the Independence Day concerts, complete with fireworks. The first completely professional band in America was the Independent Band of New York, which was formed in 1825. Two of the members of this band were recent immigrants from the British Isles, a trombone player named Thomas Dodworth and his son Alan, who played piccolo and often soloed with the independent band. With the rise of all brass bands in the 1830s, the independent band was eventually dissolved, but Alan Dodworth formed the national band as a brass band with about half the members of the independent band, which would be renamed the Dodworth Band in 1836. It was customary for some bands of the day to be under contract with a military regiment. Their contract with the 71st Regiment Band of New York had them playing at the first major fighting of the Civil War, the First Battle of Bull Run, also known as First Manassas. After the war, Harvey Dodworth led the band in some of the first concerts in Central Park. And with the addition of instruments such as saxophone, bass clarinet, and the helicon, made the ensemble more flexible. It could serve as a cornet band, a reed and brass band, or as an orchestra. It was not until the 1870s when Patrick Gilmore's band started to take the status of top band from the Dodworth Band. Patrick Gilmore was born in County Galway in 1829, and by the age of 18 had joined a military band stationed in Canada. After only 1 year, he left military service and moved to Boston, where he established his reputation as a cornetist. At the age of 23, he was appointed the leader of the Boston Brass Band, the first leader of that ensemble to play cornet, as the others had played keyed bugle. He stayed with the Boston Brass Band for 3 years before the Salem Brass Band lured him away with the promise of $1,000 a year and all the money you can make. The notoriety of the Salem Band led to other engagements, including the leadership of the Guards Militia Company of Charleston in the inaugural parade for President James Buchanan. This infuriated the Boston Brass Band as they felt they deserved the honor. Just before Gilmore marched in the inaugural parade, the great keyed bugle versus cornet competition pitted Gilmore against Ned Kendall, the greatest keyed bugle player of all New England. At a concert with the Salem Brass Band, with Kendall as soloist, the second half of the program featured Kendall playing the Wood Up Quick Step by John Holloway, a famous bugle feature. After Kendall finished playing, the piece was played again, this time with Gilmore on cornet. While the piece is very difficult for the keyed bugle, it was much easier for the valves of the cornet. Gilmore was able to just play faster and more accurately on the cornet. After the contest was won, Gilmore asked Kendall to take the podium while Gilmore sat as a section player in the next piece, showing his magnanimity. This meeting probably helped bring about the end of the keyed bugle and promoted the use of valve instruments. After 5 successful years with the Salem Brass Band, Gilmore heads back up to Boston to lead the Boston Brigade Band, which he quickly made a professional ensemble and renamed it Gilmore's Band. This ensemble was similar to the Dodworth Band. It had a large, flexible instrumentation that could be adapted for several different types of venues. During the Civil War, Gilmore's band enlisted as a unit and served with the 24th Massachusetts Volunteer Regiment from October 1861 until August 1862, when most of the bands were sent home in a cost-saving procedure. Back in Boston, Gilmore conducted many concerts to boost morale during the war. At a later point, the governor of Massachusetts asked Gilmore to reorganize the military bands in the states, and eventually Gilmore was assigned to General Nathan Banks, who went to New Orleans, where the general put him in charge of all musical activities under his command. It was because of his working with Banks that Gilmore creates the first of his oversized band concerts, an extravaganza for the 1864 inauguration of Louisiana Governor Michael Hahn. For the occasion, Gilmore assembled an ensemble of 500 Army bandsmen, plus drum and bugle players, along with a children's chorus of 5,000. During the last piece, Hail Columbia, he used electric buttons on his podium to fire 36 cannon in time with the music, while bells from churches throughout the town sounded to create a spectacular effect. By 1867, Gilmour embarks on his next great adventure, the National Peace Jubilee, which would take place in 1869. The plans for the Jubilee included building a hall that would seat 50,000 people, the need to find 1,000 instrumentalists and 10,000 singers from various cities around Boston. He also had to work with the Boston school system to create a large children's chorus, as well as have the Boston Organ Planning and Manufacturing Company, E&G Hook, build a large pipe organ for the occasion. The Jubilee lasted for 5 days, each with its own concert. They included an opening day concert, a symphony and oratorio concert, a People's Day concert on the third day. The fourth concert included Beethoven's Fifth Symphony, and the final concert featured the mass children's chorus. Using the profits he earned from the National Peace Jubilee, Gilmour and his wife took a trip to Europe, where he may have gotten the idea for his third extravaganza, the World Peace Jubilee, which was held in 1872. This time he massed 2,000 band and orchestra players, as well as a chorus of 20,000 to perform in an auditorium that would hold 100,000 people. In addition to this massive ensemble, Gilmour invited several national and international groups to perform. Groups that played were the Band of the Grenadier Guards under Daniel Godfrey, the Emperor William's Household Cornet Quartet, the Orchestra of Johann Strauss, with Strauss conducting, the Kaiser Franz Grenadier Regiment Band under Heinrich Sorrow, the National Band of Dublin under Edwin Clements, and the Garde Republicaine Band under Paulus. Among the American bands that were present were the United States Marine Band under Henry Fries and the New York 9th Regiment Band under D.L. Downing. The musicianship of the European bands caused many bands in America to begin to raise their own standards of playing. It seems that after this last massive musical undertaking, Gilmour loses the taste for more extravaganza, which allows him more time for developing a touring group. So, in 1873, he accepts the leadership of the 22nd Regiment Band of New York. And as he had earlier, he renames the ensemble the Gilmour Band. Since the number of fine New York bands had grown, it was harder to find steady engagements. So Gilmour decided to travel to cities where fine bands were not so common. The Gilmour Band toured the US and Canada several times, and they even had a European tour in 1878. During this time, the instrumentation of the band started to look more like what we're used to seeing in today's ensembles. Gilmour's tenure with the band lasted until his death the day after his last concert on September 23, 1892. The band tried to continue on after his death, but even with musicians such as D.W. Reeves, who Sousa calls the father of the American band, and Victor Herbert, the band eventually loses many of its best players to a young director who had just started his own professional band, John Philip Sousa. John Philip Sousa was born in 1854 in Washington, D.C., where his father played trombone with the Marine Band. Sousa learned to play several brass instruments, but his primary instrument was the violin. In 1868, he enlisted as an apprentice for the Marine Band, where he served for almost 7 years. The next 5 years saw him playing or conducting in various theater orchestras, including playing under Jacques Offenbach in Philadelphia at the Centennial Exposition in 1876. It was while he was in Philadelphia when he first heard the Gilmour Band. In 1880, Sousa had composed and compiled music for a variety show, Our Flirtations, which he then took on tour. It was during this tour in St. Louis where he received a telegram inviting him to become the new director of the Marine Band in Washington, a post he eventually accepted. The group which Sousa found was lacking in both repertoire and musicianship, so he set about the task of improving both. He ordered music from Europe to match the musical taste of the day, and placed more rigor on the musicians than they had become accustomed to, while creating ways for the disgruntled musicians to be discharged quickly, bringing the number of musicians down to 33. But this allowed Sousa to recruit younger replacements so that he could reshape the band into a first-rate performing ensemble. While he enjoyed writing art songs and operettas, it is his marches that are most remembered of his music. From his first march, The Review, in 1873, to The Northern Pines and The Wildcats in 1931, Sousa wrote at least 136 marches, which earned him the title of the March King. Publishers started printing piano arrangements of some of his most popular marches in lots of 20,000. In 1892, Sousa makes two decisions that will help him become a very wealthy man. First, he negotiates a royalty contract for the publication of his music rather than a flat fee. And second, he resigns from the Marine Band and starts his own professional band. It was while he was on tour with the Marine Band that he was approached by David Blakely, who had organized tours for Gilmour in the past. Blakely offered Sousa 4 times his yearly salary of $1,500 and 20% of the profits to form and conduct a professional band. Sousa accepted. The band's first performance was on September 26, 1892, only 2 days after Patrick Gilmour's death. The band's instrumentation, even more than Gilmour's, looked more like a modern ensemble. For the 1893 season, Sousa was able to add 19 members from the Gilmour Band, including cornet soloist Herbert L. Clark. He worked very hard to please his audiences wherever he went. This is most notable because his band was able to continue to play to enthusiastic audiences even when most, if not all, of the other touring bands had gone under. Most of his programs would consist of 9 pieces, but Sousa would plan on playing an encore or two between pieces, starting the piece before the audience's applause had died down. It is said that he would announce the encore to the players who could hear above the applause, and the word would pass back through the ensemble. Experienced players who had the music memorized would start playing while newer members were still looking for their music. Sousa also incorporated solos in the concerts, usually after the first piece, and attended encores. Noted soloists include Herbert L. Clark and Frank Simon on cornet, J.J. Perfetto and Simone Mantia on euphonium, and Arthur Pryor on trombone. He also would add women soloists, sopranos, harpists, and violinists for a touch of elegance. The coloratura soprano Estelle Liebling sang over 1,600 concerts with the Sousa Band. The band toured yearly until World War I. During the years from 1900 to 1911, they toured Europe 4 times and had 1 world tour. The band was inactive during World War I as Sousa served in the U.S. Navy to aid the war effort. After the war, the band toured again until the Great Depression and declining health brought an end to the band in 1931. Edwin Franco Goldman was born in 1878 and learned to play the cornet. And by his teens, he was able to earn a scholarship to the National Conservatory of Music, which was then headed up by Antonin Dvorak. By age 17, he was considered a cornet virtuoso and was playing with the Metropolitan Opera Orchestra under such conductors as Mahler and Toscanini. In 1911, he formed the New York Military Band, which performed concerts on the green at Columbia University from 1913 until 1922. By 1921, he had changed the name of the band to the Goldman Concert Band, but by 1922, he dropped the word concert from the band's name. Throughout much of his life, Goldman worked tirelessly to get composers of note to write music for wind band. His first attempt was in 1920 when he organized the first American competition for serious original band works. Goldman secured Percy Grainger and Victor Herbert as judges, and they awarded the $500 prize to Carl Busch for his work, A Chant from the Great Plains. There was not to be a second Goldman Band competition. But in 1940, Goldman was able to get Aaron Copland to write a band version of his orchestra piece, An Outdoor Overture, which was originally written for the New York City High School of Music and Art in 1938. The band version was revised after Goldman's performance in 1942, but it was not published until 1958 by Boosey and Hawkes. The Goldman Band's first concert of all original works for band was played on June 21st, 1942. The first half of the concert had works by Goldman himself, Morton Gould, Leo Sowerby, Pedro San Juan, and Paul Creston. The second half seemed more grounded by the early wind band composers of the 20th century, Holst, Granger, and Vaughan Williams. But they were joined by William Schumann, Henry Cowell, another piece by E.F. Goldman, and one by Richard Franco Goldman, Edwin's son. In January of 1948, the League of Composers held a concert performed by the Goldman Band in honor of Goldman's 70th birthday. The program contained some of the composers from the 1942 concert, with the notable addition of Darius Milhaud's Suite Francais on the first half. And the second half included the world premiere of Schoenberg's Theme and Variations for Wind Band, the first American performance of the three pieces written for La Cortèse Juillet. Mihalski's Symphony No. 19 for band was also on the concert. On June 22, 1953, a tribute concert was held for the Goldman Band's 2000th concert on the Mall in New York Central Park. In 1956, Edwin Franco Goldman died, leaving his son Richard to lead the band. After Richard died in 1980, Ainsley Cox became the conductor until 1988. The band was renamed the Guggenheim Band, and it was led by Gene Young from 1990 until 1997. David Eaton directed the band in 1998, and the group was officially disbanded in 1999 due to a lack of funding.